my name is Agi Vetter, and I'm going to talk to you about communism.
You have to eat the mic.
Eat the mic, okay.
Eat it.
I eat it. So, communism actually started after World War II, especially Eastern Europe knows about all that. And I'd have to talk about my parents first. My father was a farmer, which he got married and they built a house on it, and they actually had 5 children at a time by 1944, and they were prospering. You know, they were not rich, but they were pretty well off. They actually had the children were able to have teachers to come to the house rather than the children go to school. But 1944, the liberating of Hungary, the Russian army went through my hometown and visited my father, and he had one of the waterproof rubber boots on, and at gunpoint they were asking him to take it off. And all of a sudden, whatever reason, some noise came from the outside, and the soldiers ran out, and they left my father alive, but they took all the animals, horses, cows, and completely emptied the storage room, which was full of food. So 1944 was a big change, where he was able to hire 7 to 10 people yearly to work on the farm. All of a sudden, he was there without food. Only thing left is 5 kids, a wife, and a pair of rubber boots. And by 1948, the communism, the collectivism really took off, and the Communist Party ordered my father out from the land and from the house with the children, and we had to move into my grandparents' house, who had only 2 bedrooms and 1 kitchen. That was it, and we were 10 of us by that time. And of course, with no land, he had to go to, my father had to go to the collective farms to work, and my mother started raising geese and other small animals to sell, and the geese especially was half full because the feather was very expensive at that time. I was born in 1951, and I really don't have much of a memory of the just this first memory is the uprising in 1956. 1956, I was in Budapest with my sister, and she just grabbed me and said, okay, we have to go to the train station and immediately get on the train, and no matter how, but we have to get back to our hometown. So that was the revolution, and I don't remember much, just maybe a few tanks. I saw Russian tanks, I saw there. And the second thing I remember, after the revolution was pushed down by the Soviets, my brother came back from the army and he got married, and my parents gave him a party, but closed doors. And again, just a young child, not much of a memory of it, but following day, my parents asked us younger children to go to bed because we have visitors coming from the state, because they wanted to know exactly who bought the food, where did we get the wine, how much wine we had, and where did we put what left. So My parents did not inform us why it was, but the following day that the haystack was all over in the backyard, completely destroyed because they were the politicians wondering if we buried underneath the straw something. And so I have no idea what they find, what happened, but that was really the first memory of, and very much impacted my life after that. In 1957, I went to the first grade, and I, unfortunately, as my sisters and brothers had tutors coming to the house, I went barefoot. Not just myself, there were some of us. And later on, October, November came, my mother had to cut out from a paper, a hard paper, not even a cardboard, just hard paper, to make it, put it in a sock, so saving our foot from the colder weather until they were able to get some shoes for us. And after those years, I had more than once I was asked to go because the government did not control completely everything, and we only could get 2 pounds of meat twice a month. So I had to go 2 o'clock in the morning, stay in line, and make sure the family gets the 2 pounds of meat twice a month. Then the second thing I remember about my father, as I'm coming home from school, all of a sudden he's under the bed with a small little radio where he had this battery operated, that 4x6 battery operated radio, and he listened to under the bed locked doors, and he listened to Free Europe, and he requested us children not to say anything. He has the radio. I grew up with no electricity, no water, and I had to, or the whole family, when I didn't, somebody else went to get water, drinking water from at least walking half a mile away. 3 places were in the town where there was drinking water supply. Then I started every year more and more helping the family, and I started, especially summertime, helping my mother with raising silkworms, and also taking care of 150, 140 geese. And my mother took me to the field. In the morning, I stayed with the geese all the way in the evening, and then evening time, when all that 150 of them followed me home one by one, it was just a beautiful scenery, and even now I am so proud of that because I remember how much they loved me. They colored close to me. And then at 4th grade, I started seeing the situation where my father always said nothing is going the right way, and that was the first time I realized why he did say that. There were children whose father and mother were in the Communist Party. That was the children started to be favored by the teacher, and then it went into later on, more teachers were involved with the children, more teachers were coming and separating those kids who were belonging to the communist country and pushing us farther away, because my father said, I refuse to be part of the Communist Party. You guys took my land, my life away. I am not going to join you. And so that was all the way going. Can you imagine when a teacher throws a chalk at you and says, come and tell me what did we learn a week ago about history. Say that. That was the way they talked to us, many of us. There were at least 10, 12 people who could say the same story as I can. And then I finished high school. I went to Budapest to work in a factory. First I started in an office, but that didn't pay me enough to pay my rent, and I have to tell you, I never had a winter coat in Hungary, or a new winter coat. Only thing, handouts were the one what I was able to get. And only thing I was able to save money for, a pair of new boots. So in my whole year, that was the first new thing I purchased to myself. So my boss said, if the office work is not good enough, it doesn't give you any money, but enough money, why don't you try to be a factory worker and maybe even volunteer to be working all night shift? So I accepted it, and so I started getting to know people, and same way as my father, I was also asked to join the party. So I refused, and of course I didn't make many friends with that. And I started thinking, I don't think this is, I was making typewriters, not electric, but just different pieces of part of a typewriter. And at that point, I was thinking, this country is not for me. But I had to think about how I'm going to approach my parents. So I went back. By 74, I decided I'm done with this country. In 75 January, I went back to my hometown where my parents lived, and I approached my mom and my dad. And I told them I don't want to stay in this country. I'm going to go and leave. I like to go to the West. And especially I like to go to America. That's my dream. And so I asked them not to stop me, and they promised me they are not gonna stop. They didn't tell anybody, because if they did, they would have been in trouble, so would I. So end of January, I turned into the passport request, and I did something what Trump is doing a lot of times. I did not report my sister was in Los Angeles. And so I just hope nobody, I'm such a small person, maybe nobody gonna be checking on me and that much. So I waited about 6 months. Middle of July, I got the passport and $100 worth of voucher, which was good to Italy, because I got a 2 weeks vacation to Austria and Italy. So that was my spending money was only allowed to take $100. That's it. And then I went back to say goodbye to my parents, and my mother said, I'm going to go to the train station with you at least until then I will be with you. And all of a sudden, my mother at one corner grabbed my hand, gave me a kiss, a hug, and pushed me and said, don't look back, just go. And that was not, luckily that was not the last time I saw her, but almost. And so I got back to Budapest, packed my bag, August 2nd, 1975. I went to the train station, I took the train to Vienna and then to Italy, Venice, Italy. And in Venice, early in the morning, the sunshine was just beautiful. I was sitting on the front step of the train station and I was plotting what's my next step. So the next step was, but I felt so free and so rich. even if I only had $100 worth of lira, which I purchased one pair of jeans because my dream was if I die, I'm gonna die in it. And so I never had a pair of jeans before that, and so that was at least half of my money. But I said, that's fine. And so I made a phone call to my sister, Colette, to Los Angeles, and she was the one who, by that time, she told me, okay, if you are out in Italy, go to Trieste. Trieste is a refugee camp, and she said I can just ask for refugee status there. So that's what I did. I got on a train to Trieste, and then I was randomly, police was asking everybody's ID, and somebody recognized my Hungarian passport and said, oh, hello. And so I started talking to him, and I said, I'm actually, he told his story, and I started my story about, I don't want to go back to Hungary, I'm just about ready to go to the refugee camp here. And he said, no, don't go in, I promise I'll help you. So that came to be a great friendship. But I said, I don't have visa to Germany or Switzerland. And he said, don't worry, I can help you. So we did go, trusted him, headed out to the Italian and Swiss border early in the morning when people were going from Italy to Switzerland to work. And he said, I'll be walking at least 5 feet before you and just follow me. You can imagine it was shaking my voice or my leg right now. Can you imagine how much I was shaking at that time when the soldiers were holding shotguns around their shoulders, at least 200 of them. So we walked through that border. Okay, when we went, I relaxed a little bit and he went back to get his car and my suitcase, and then he met me in a coffee shop, and we headed back to the Switzerland, West German border. The name is Basel, and that was underground, approximately a mile long. And in that point, I thought I'm not gonna make it, but then happened to be with lots of women who went to shop in Switzerland, walking back to Germany. So he put me with those women, and without nobody questioned me, went through the border. Then I have a friend in Bonn who lived in Hungary, but she's a German citizen, and I wanted to go to get to her then, since I was able to get that far. So this friend put me on a train. I went to Bonn. I took a cab, and I was knocking on the door, and my friend, of course, she didn't know anything about I'm coming, but I was there. And at that point, we did start going to a charity. Our name is Caritas. They are the one who helped me to apply for a refugee status to the United States. But at the same time, and so filled up all the applications, and they send it in, and I did not hear at least 6 months, 7 months from the United States Embassy in Frankfurt. And then in Germany, I also had to ask for a refugee status, and I went to a refugee camp. I can tell you, refugee camps these days is so different, because these days, those people complaining about the internet is slow. In my life, there was no money given to us. If you didn't show up at 8 o'clock for food, you didn't get any for lunch either. So, and you had curfew, and you also had the first 3 weeks you couldn't go out from the camp. We were about 200 of us. And took me 3 weeks to get my status as a German Auslander, and then I was asked if I can go close to work in Bonn. So I started work and I was granted with that. I worked in an old people's home Monday to Sunday, 6 days a week. I cleaned 5 times a week at a small coffee shop, restaurant type of thing. And I also went to Bonn twice a week to clean a theater. I was free. I saved enough money to pay my plane ticket. And finally, about end of March, the following year, 76, I got an invitation to the American Embassy in Frankfurt, and I had a translator there. Why do I want to, kind of questions, why do you want to go to the United States, and all that question, what is your political reasoning, and at that point I wasn't sure if I will be accepted or not, but middle of June I got the exception. They expected me in the United States, and then I was, June 29th, I got on the plane, and here I am now. And so 1976, June 29th was a very important day. Somebody with a sign waiting for me and give me all the papers, all the legal papers, and all what I needed to get some work for. And then I went to the immigration, got on the plane to Los Angeles, where I reunited with my sister, and then I went to work in a restaurant, and then I worked in a knitting factory. Then I started working in a bookbinding company, and then in the meantime I met with my wonderful husband, my love of my life, and in 1979 we got married. Not much English, but we got along great. And in 1985, January 28th, I came to be a U.S. citizen, and I'm so proud of it. I hope my children will experience at least as much freedom as I did, because certainly we don't need any Russian interference in our life here. And I'm a happy person. My 100 hours certainly came a long way. Thank you very much.